Hi, I'm Curly Sue and I'm now live in Bristol doing a cooking demo. I'm going to be doing 3 different dishes. So now I'm going to turn the camera around so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So stay tuned. There you can see the chopping board, so let's begin. So we have the live camera, we have YouTube live, and we have the audience live in front of me as well. So welcome to everybody. Okay. Alright, so the first dish that we're going to do is the red lentil and coconut soup. Now if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to let me know. If you're online, please feel free to leave the questions in the comment section below. Right, so first of all, what we're going to need for the red lentil and coconut soup is we're going to need, well, this is optional. You can have some oil. Sorry, 1 second. You can use oil, but instead of oil, I've used water today because to reduce the amount of cholesterol and calories, you can use water instead. So you need oil, then you need a small onion, just about this size is fine. It's a small onion. And then you're going to need a piece of ginger, just about this size. So just like a 2-inch piece. But if you're not a great big ginger fan and you just want a hint of ginger, you can use half that size, so just a little piece of ginger. In addition to that, we're going to have a couple of cloves of garlic chopped up quite small. And I'm going to show you some nifty ways to kind of chop and peel things today. Some of them you may have seen before and some you may not have. So 2 or 3 cloves of garlic as well. Then we're going to need some dry red lentils. So I use these ones, these kinds. So I've got some already measured out here. Some dried red lentils. So I'll just show it to our live audience, our camera audience, and our YouTube audience. So we've got 3 audiences today. And then we're going to have some fresh coriander, just a little bit like this. I'm going to show here, as you can see here. You can see here. So fresh coriander is good. You can use the dried, but I always put, where possible, always try to use fresh ingredients. It's so much better. So then some butternut squash chopped up as well into pieces, which Mary very kindly did for me. I'm not great with chopping up butternut squash, but you can use butternut squash or you can use pumpkin, whichever is your preference. And also going to need coconut milk. If you can use fresh coconut milk, wonderful. If you really can't, then use whatever you can, but fresh coconut milk is always a lot better than using the tinned or the dried coconut milk. You have to be careful with the dried coconut milk because sometimes the dried coconut milk has regular milk powder in it as well. So if you're trying to avoid dairy, be very careful and always read, because sometimes coconut milk, they add that. I really don't know why as well. Coconut milk. Then we're also going to need some spices. So I'll bring them all over here and I'll show you to you one by one. So we're going to use everyday Caribbean seasoning or seasonal, as you can see here. And you have to just be careful how you use that because you don't want it to be too salty. Some of these have a lot of salt, so just be careful on the amount. So it's best to taste as you go along. A little bit of cayenne pepper, so just a tiny bit. You don't want to blow your socks off. So there you can see it here. A tiny bit of salt. Now this is to taste because it just depends. You may not need the salt if you've already got the seasonal in it. There's a little bit of black pepper as well. Now some Madras curry powder. You can use the Caribbean curry powder as well, but I recommend the mild because the hot one is very hot, obviously. And for me, hot things, I don't mind if they're spicy, as in spicy hot, but it's not really good for you from a health point of view. And then I don't know how you taste it when it's too hot. So it's up to you which type you use, but I always use the mild one. I think it, you can really taste the lovely different curry flavor when you use that one. And then lastly, we use some tomato puree as well. Yes, we have a question.
Can you use turmeric instead of the curry powder?
Can you use turmeric instead of the curry powder? You can, but curry, the dried turmeric, you can, but it will have a bit less seasoning in it because curry powder is actually a mixture of different seasonings that are put together, and turmeric is in it. But if you use just the turmeric, then you're missing out on the other one. But it should be fine because you're using the seasonal anyway, so it should be fine. So you just taste it, and if it's to your taste, then that's fine. Yeah, so there we go. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to chop the onion small, and the garlic and the ginger. So I'm just going to, I've already done it. Here is one I prepared earlier, so it's already there in the background, but I'm just going to show you a few little chopping methods. So for garlic, one of the easiest ways to do it is just to get the clove of garlic. To get the clove of garlic without it being peeled, place it on the chopping board, put your knife, okay, let me move stuff out of the way so you can see me. Put your knife flat over it and just pound it a couple of times with the heel of your hand, and then it just comes out like this. So then it's more or less chopped and the peel comes off really easily. Then you just take your knife and then just give it a little quick chop like that, and then that's it, it's ready to go. Or if you have a garlic press, then you can do that as well, but if you don't have a garlic press, you can do it that way. Then with ginger, a way to do the ginger is you can just use a teaspoon to do it instead of peeling it, because what I find is when I peel it, I waste a lot of the ginger. So you just take the ginger with a teaspoon, and as you can see here, it just comes off ever so easy, and then you can get into all those little nooks and crannies that you get with ginger because of the way it grows naturally, very easily. So simple. You could even do this with a plastic spoon, so if you've got kids helping you in the kitchen, not too small the kids because it's ginger, it's very easy to do. So it comes off so simply like that. Has anyone ever done it, peeled ginger with a spoon before? Oh, okay. Every day's a school day. Okay. Yeah. So it's so easy and simple. You just keep going until all of it's done, and that's it. And then if you've got some bits that are a little tougher, then you can just do a quick slice with the knife, and that's it for your ginger. Now for cutting onions, people always ask me, what's the easiest way to chop an onion? So for me, what I do is when you're chopping, the best way is to have your hand like a claw so that you don't chop your fingers. So whenever you're cutting, so you hold it like that, and then you push the knife down like that. So you're kind of holding it like a claw so that you don't slice straight through your fingers. Okay, so then we take the peel off. And then what you can remember is that the onion already has layers in it, so that helps you when you're chopping it up. So you use the layers to help you chop up when you're peeling. Let me just get this one off. So get the peel off. So once that all comes off, it's being stubborn today, but we're getting there. Okay. Right, almost done. Right. So one of the easiest ways is to first of all, holding it, the knife like that, and the fingers around it, chop it in half like that. Then, holding your hand like a claw, you're going to slice into the onion like that. So you're creating more layers. And then you just get the knife like this, holding it your hand like a claw, and do the same the other way. And that's it, your onion's done. Now half the problem sometimes with chopping onions is people use knives that are not very sharp. if the knife is sharp enough, it will go through it really quickly and easily, so that it's always safer to have a sharp knife. And I've learned that the hard way, because I sliced my finger so badly I had to have stitches because the knife was blunt. So I learned the hard way that you have to make sure that your knife is, I'm just being honest. Okay, and there you go, very easily peeled onion, just like that. So once you've peeled your vegetables, I've got one I prepared earlier, so let me just take the one off the stove. So once you've done that, then you just put your vegetables in the pot. The other one's gone slightly overcooked, so we're just going to put some more into here. So we've got our onions. We've got our ginger and our garlic. So into that we're going to add, do you have any questions? Oh, okay. All right.
How much quantity of the pumpkin?
The pumpkin?
Or the squash?
The squash. The squash, we'll just half a small one. Half a small one, so it's about. Okay. So we're going to add our water.
She was asking if they would wash the onion.
Yeah, they were washed before.
They were washed before.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then we have our lentils. I'm going to add in here. And this is washed already. Our coriander. So we're just going to fold the coriander like that and then slice it, making sure you've got your hand again in the claw shape so you don't chop your things. Add that in. Add our coconut milk. We're going to let that simmer and then we'll add our spices. So while that's simmering, we're going to go on to the next one. That we're doing is the spelt bread rolls. Now this is not pure spelt bread rolls. This is spelt and regular flour, self-raising flour as well. You can use just spelt flour if you want. Okay, and for this recipe we're going to need 1 cup of spelt flour. It's just this one, you can get it in most major supermarkets. So 1 cup of spelt flour, 1 cup of self-raising flour, so just regular self-raising flour is fine. 1/4 of a cup of vegan butter, and I usually use this brand, Vitalite. 1/4 of a cup of almond milk, or any non-dairy milk is fine. 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and that's all we really need for this. So let me just wash my hands. Right, for this I'm going to wear gloves because I've got nails and my nails got nail polish. Even though they're shellac, it doesn't matter. I always like to do gloves when I'm kneading anything. So I'm going to put my gloves on. And this one is really simple and easy to do. You don't need to let it, the bread rolls rise or anything. So all you do first of all is you put into the bowl your spelt flour and your self-raising flour, your baking powder, and I forgot to say also a little tiny bit of salt as well.
So what is it made of? It's kind of spelt.
It's part of the wheat, but to be honest, I don't know enough about the manufacturing of it, but it's just a different type of flour. Yeah, you can. Most major supermarkets. I got this one in Tesco. Yeah. So just stir those so they're all together. Then you add the butter.
What's he making of it?
The bread rolls. And then what you need to do is kind of crush the butter, because you're going to try to rub the butter into the flour until it kind of looks like breadcrumbs. Can you see? It looks like breadcrumbs. So then when it looks like breadcrumbs, then you're ready to add your liquid, your milk, and then you're going to knead it together to form a nice dough. So you may need to add some extra flour. So if it's a little on the wet side, you just add a little extra flour, not too much. Because you want to make sure it's in a nice smooth dough. Keep going. You don't want to over knead it, just lightly so that it all comes together and then it's smooth, and then you're ready to divide it into the bread roll shapes. And you can make them whichever size you want. Pardon? Mouth, yeah, about the size of your mouth if you want to. So for this is ready. So this is what it looks like when it's ready to go. So I'm going to grease a baking tray with some of the butter. So I'm just using a clean tissue. You don't want them to stick. Usually if I'm at home, I just use greaseproof paper and that's it. But here we're just going to use a tray. That's that done. So then you get your mixture. I'd usually divide it in half, and then for each one I usually do it in 3 or 4 all together, but well, there's quite a few of us here, so I better do it in 6. Okay, so you sprinkle a little extra flour so it doesn't stick. And put it onto your tray. So they're quick and easy to make. You can make these, sometimes if I have people over for dinner, I make them on the day when I'm going to have people over, because they're so quick to make. There you go, so that's 3, so we're going to do 3 more. Let's divide that into 3. So you space them out because they will rise a bit. Now you can make this with wholemeal flour. I try not to use just white flour because just white flour is not brilliant. You can use just wholemeal flour. Usually it's better if you mix the two because wholemeal flour can be quite dry. But the spelt flour on its own can work as well.
So you can mix the spelt flour on the whole flour together?
I've never done that, and I'm not sure how that would work because spelt can be a little on the dry side as well. So you could try it. It's always about trial and error. Okay, so then they're ready to go. So you just pop those into a medium oven for 25 minutes. For 20 to 25 minutes. And then we will have a look at them when they come out. So our lentil mixture is coming together nicely. So now we're going to add the butternut squash and the spices. So I'm going to take it over to the stove and add the spices. Oh, actually, I'll leave it here. So for our spices, we've got our curry powder, just a little bit of that you need, and just a little bit of black pepper. You don't need a lot, just a teeny bit. It's like 1/4 of a teaspoon. Our seasonal. So I usually use 1 or 2 teaspoons to start with, and then if I need more afterwards, I'll add that. A tiny bit of cayenne pepper, and you don't want to use too much. Some people like too much, but I don't recommend too much. So I'd say half a teaspoon of the cayenne pepper. I'm going to transfer it into a bigger pot. That's better. Yeah, that's better. And then we're going to add our tomato puree. If you don't want to add tomato puree, because some people don't like the tomato puree in the tube, you can just puree some tomatoes, just one small one, and add that instead if you want to. But if you don't mind the tomato puree, then that's fine. So just a little bit. So we'll add that in. So we're going to let that simmer now while we make the chocolate mousse. So that should be ready once the butternut squash is cooked. So I'll just put that back on the fire. Any questions so far? No? It's good?
What is soup name?
The soup is called red lentil and coconut soup.
Oh.
Yeah. Alright, our next dish is chocolate mousse. Now when I first heard about chocolate mousse made with avocado, I thought, well, that's not going to taste good. You don't actually taste the avocado, and the great thing is you can have it without feeling bad afterwards that, oh, I've had something that I shouldn't have, because it's quite healthy because you've got avocado. So for this recipe we need 2 large avocados. Well, I've got 1 large and 2 small ones, so that will do. We've got some cocoa powder, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 1/4 cup of maple syrup, and you can buy maple syrup in most major supermarkets. A little bit of vanilla. We've got some Madagascar vanilla bean paste here that we're going to use today, and some nutmeg. So firstly what we need to do is we need to scoop out our avocado. So all we do is get, I've got in a next bowl, all we do is get the avocado, cut it in half, and you just get a spoon and you just scoop it out. It's really easy to do, just like that. That's it, it's all come out. Now for the side with the seed, this is quite easy to do, just be careful. That's it, it's come out. So you just smack the knife into it, twist it, and it comes out. Yes, I have been watching Jamie Oliver, because that's how I learned how to do it. Okay, and again, you get your spoon, and you just scoop it all out. Very simple. So just do the others as well. Pardon?
Jamie goes around the country.
Yeah, he goes all around the world,
Yes.
doing very well.
To find out how to do stuff. That's
Yeah.
why he knows so much.
And
And then he used that to
yes, to make his, he gets a lot of inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes. So there we go. We scoop it out. So one more.
And his stuff is so expensive. His cooking pots and things very expensive.
But they're good ones. Okay, so there we have it. So we have that all there. So we're now going to use a fork just to crush this up. And we've got our blender not far behind. So you're going to just crush it up with a fork, because we're going to blend this, because this is really quick and easy to make as well. You can make it the night before if you're having people coming over for dinner. Make sure I don't get any of the seed in there. We've got people coming over for dinner, or it's a good recipe if you want children to help you in the kitchen as well. This is a good one too. Actually, I can use my potato masher for this to make it easier. You need a bit of elbow grease for this. Obviously, the softer the avocado, the easier it is. Yeah, so it's all soft and ready to go. Now the reason we blend it is because when you crush it with the potato masher like that, it doesn't make it smooth enough. You can do it this way, but it still is a little bit on the lumpy side when you do it this way. But when you put it into the blender, obviously that gets rid of every single lump there is. Alright, so then we just add our other ingredients. So we add our cocoa powder. Now with the cocoa powder, you can use cacao powder, which I prefer to use. It's quite expensive, but obviously, you know, you don't want to skimp on your health. Today we haven't got cacao powder, we've just got regular cocoa powder, but you make sure you get the cocoa powder that you can use for baking, not the drinking chocolate that you use to make your hot chocolate. It's not quite the same thing, so you just use your cocoa powder. So you put that in, and then you put in your maple syrup, and then then you're going to add your vanilla bean paste, just a tiny bit. So it's just a little bit because you don't want to overpower the dish with it. So it's just about a teaspoon is all you need, because it's quite strong when you use the paste. When you use the extract, it's not as strong. Okay, there you go. So we're going to mix that all together. So as you can see, it's starting to look something like chocolate mousse, but obviously it's still got green bits in it because we need to blend it. Right, so we're going to transfer this into a blender. Oh yes, the nutmeg. I almost forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, we have an expert. Thank you to my expert nutmeg cracker. Thank you very much. I'm just going to grate some into it. Thank you very much. Stir that in. Now this is quite rich, so you don't need too much of it, unless you just really like rich stuff. Okay. So if I can just put it into the blender, please. So you scrape it into your blender jug. You can use a NutriBullet if you want to. That's what I usually use. The large cup on it is usually fine, or you know, if you've got a decent blender, that's fine too. Make sure you get all of it out. Alright, so if I could just ask Mary to whisk that in the blender for me, and then we will come back and we will try that. So just to show you how our red lentil and coconut soup is getting on. So you can see, so you can smell it. Okay, it's not quite ready yet, so just seeing how it's looked, but it'll be ready once the